And Kai, finally, I did it right this time. So I realized what I was doing wrong with this whole third party stream thing. Hey, y'all. So we are live for the Pivotal Panel, the Black Men Edition for Black History Month. I am extremely excited because I have some amazing people here waiting to talk to you all. And I'm sure you are all excited to hear from them as well. So I'm going to wait for a few seconds. I'm going to give everybody a chance to come pop on in, and then we will get to the questions. So let's give it a few minutes. So we got 10, 12, 15, 29. It goes up 33, 61, 67. Hey, y'all. 95, 98. Okay, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All of you all are popping in. Please share with the community. Hey, DeAndre, share with the community where you all are tuning in from, and show us some love a little bit, and definitely share the stream as we are speaking. I'm going to be shifting from LinkedIn to my live to my questions, so please don't pay me any mind. I'm doing 3 screens at one time. So I'm going to have my panelists introduce themselves, and then we will get right into the questions. Lonnie, you said, what is this? Go ahead and read the description. I promise you the description will tell you what this is. Okay. So first, let's go to James. James, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sinead. Hey, everybody. James McLean. I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio, although I'm looking to move to Raleigh, North Carolina sometime before the end of this year. Yeah, I hear it's nice down there. So I transitioned into customer success in the tech industry 6 months ago from a marketing job at a legal tech company. So my transition has been pretty recent, but really happy to be here, answer you all's questions. It was a tough spot that I was in last year, so I'm really hoping to pay that forward.
Love it. Thank you. We're going to go to Vince.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Vincent Edwards. I am from Kansas City, Missouri. Go Chiefs. But I currently live in
Don't go there. Don't you start, because you already know how to go on the Eagles.
Listen, it is what it is. Just take it on the chin. It is what it is. But I currently live in Muncie, Indiana. So I transitioned from the mortgage financial world into tech, and I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 months. I'm currently doing an SDR role at the company Vercel, which we work with software engineers, and hoping already on the track to get promoted from the role that I'm currently in. So super excited to chat with you guys.
And next we'll go to Brian.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Brian White. I am in Columbus, Ohio. I'm remote. I transitioned into tech about 2 years ago. So I was in pharmaceutical sales for about 4 or 5 years and been in tech for 2 years. I currently work for LinkedIn. So happy to meet all you guys and tell you what we know. Thank you.
Ashton.
Hey there, everybody. Ashton McMillan here. I pivoted or transitioned out of retail management into tech recruiting back in 2019 and have been in love with recruiting ever since. I have a passion for what I do. And really, if you've been following me or know who I am on this platform, just really want to provide value and free value at that, because I like free and like to provide free. So really excited to be on the panel here today, share some gems, and hopefully you guys get a ton out of everything. I'm probably the most regular person, if you will, on the panel, but we got some heavy hitters here tonight. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Go ahead, Cyrus.
All right, I'm over here cracking jokes on Kai in the chat right now. That's what happens when you ain't paying attention and you sitting there being a class clown. Yeah, so what's good, y'all? So my name is Cyrus Harbin. I am the first and foremost, I am initially a sales engineer. I'm one of the few people that are here who took a tech boot camp to I always say break into the industry, but essentially took a tech boot camp and took that route to get into the software industry. I'm a sales engineer. Been a sales engineer for a few different tech companies, but recently I transitioned over to being a CMO, a chief marketing officer, for 2 sister tech companies that are merging into one. So it's very interesting, very fun. Aside from that, I'm the founder of Tech is the New Black. We are a media, event, and community platform focused on helping people break into tech, scale in tech, as well as giving different types of tech news. So happy to be here. Appreciate it, Shanae.
Of course. Yes, Rosa. Appreciate you. So let's go to Samante. I'm a pick on you since you're so busy that you're driving. But please don't look at the camera and drive at the same time. Just talk.
Hey everybody, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. My name is Tamonte Leary. I'm a content program manager at Microsoft, an instructional designer, also entrepreneur and a founder. Happy to be with you all today.
Thank you. And last but not least, I want to give us this big squirrel energy from Kai.
Let's go. Big squirrel energy. It's Malachi or Kai Horton. You can also call me Kai, the squirrel guy. I am born and raised in upstate New York, Syracuse to be exact. Go Orange. I currently live in Atlanta, not too far from my buddy Cyrus, even though he never comes to see me. And I am currently, most of my background is in law enforcement, and I am currently a tech sales professional for a ad tech company.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and get into the question. So first question, what do you all think has been the toughest challenge while being in the tech industry? We'll go to James first, and then Ashton, and then Malachi.
Hey, so customer success is kind of like being a personal trainer for a client or company. So they have a point B that they want to get to, and you're trying to get them there from point A. So it's really easy to do that when you've only got, 1 to 10 clients. But in my company that is kind of in a startup model, I've got almost 100 different clients. So you really have to budget your time, segment your customer base, and use a lot of different like templates and playbooks so that you're not constantly repeating the same actions, and you can try to get everybody to value like on their schedule and not on yours.
For sure, James, I like it. For me, being in recruiting, I would say one of the things, or the first thing that came to mind for me is, really just dealing with labor market shifts. There's times when things are hot and there's a ton of jobs out there, and there are times when things are not, right? And if there is one group of people who want to let you know how skilled they are, it is people in the tech industry. And so when it's a passive market, it's a little, the conversations are a little harder, trying to persuade people to your company. For my company is just shy of 400 people. We're in a very niche industry within psychology and applied behavior analysis. And we're a B2B SaaS platform. And so, it's really hard to, kind of encourage people to come over to your company in a market that, where people have tons of opportunities. But it is really nice to be me when there aren't a lot of opportunities out there, or when the market is a little bit, on the shaky side, because that's when you really get to shine, right? You really get to show like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. And if you're going to be in this industry in particular, like this is why you want to be working for us. So really just dealing with the ins and outs of those labor market shifts. And then I would probably say like a close second to that is really learning the art of selling a candidate that may not be the most ideal candidate or hit on everything to the hiring managers. I like myself to present more like an 80-20 principle, right? Like they're going to have 80% right of what you need, but that 20%, some hiring managers are willing to train and have the time to, and some are not. And so really just trying to sell that value of those candidates can be tough sometimes, but that's what I would say as far as, my toughest challenge in tech recruiting specifically.
Cool, yeah. And for me, so for those of you who are coming in, the question is, what do you think, or what do you all think has been the toughest challenge while being in this industry? So for me as an account executive, I would definitely say, just having to learn like the art of selling. And I think Ashton kind of touched on that a little bit, but a key thing to it is that you don't want to focus so much on selling the product. What you want to do is actually focus on selling the solution. And that was definitely one thing that I had to learn. And, that's definitely been one of my challenges for sure. And then just creating a pipeline of prospective customers, and then steadily following up and building that pipeline.
I love that. Thank you. So real quick, I want to, obvious thing is this is Black History Month. All of you are Black men who have pivoted into one industry or another, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in tech, but we all have pivoted, including myself. And one of the questions that actually popped up in the chat, I wanted to actually pull real quick was, as a Black man, what was the hardest thing about pivoting from the industry that you were in into tech, and what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome? Anybody can start between Brian, Cyrus, Kai, and Tamonte.
Yeah, I'll start. I think the biggest challenge is going to be the experience. When you're pivoting from, I was in pharmaceutical sales, so you go into tech. Pharma sales is very different from tech sales. As far as you have more of a relationship sale versus like a product sale, contract signature sales process is way different. So a lot of early on objection was you don't have any tech experience, so we're going to pass on you. And I would just say that alongside being a Black man, you have to kind of go above and beyond sometimes. So as far as your resume, your LinkedIn profile, it has to be excellent. I mean, there's no kind of ways around it. But I thoroughly believe that in the tech industry, it's 70% relationships, 30% skill. If you network and find the people to connect you to other influential people in these organizations, they'll give you a shot because they're looking for character, looking for people who, are going to grind and kind of get the job done. And anything in tech can be learned, whether you go through a boot camp, whether you learn on YouTube, whether you learn just kind of figure out yourself. A lot of the coders that I was with at my first tech company, they were self-taught coders. I mean, they weren't Black men, but that just showed me, that if you're willing to put the work in, it's all about the relationships. If you find the relationships, you can kind of get around the obstacles of, not having the experience or the color barrier. It's all about tenacity and just, your mindset to kind of push through that. But I would say those are the biggest barriers early on were experience.
I want to go back to something Ashton said earlier about people getting to the 80% point and then the recruiter being willing to work with them for that other 20%. All the things that Brian were just listing are like self-starting initiatives that you can do to build your skill up if you don't have that technical background. But don't, I would say, expect somebody to take you from 0 to 100 as opposed to going from 80 to 100. So as much as you can show the initiative that you're developing these skills for yourself, somebody will come along and recognize that and then continue to cultivate what you've already started.
I would say sometimes it's hard to find your fit when you're transitioning from a different career. So I have a legal and an education background, teaching background, higher education, I should say, teaching at college, university level. But what I realize is you got to really identify your transferable skills, the ones that sometimes it might even be as readily apparent. And that will often make your transition easier because a lot of transferable skills, for example, in education, there's a lot of transferable skills and actually to the tech industry, believe it or not. And it took me being in the industry for a few years to realize that, but and a lot of people will tell you that as well. So I think that's also an important consideration.
Yeah, and just to piggyback quickly off of what Tamonte said, you definitely want to highlight those transferable skills, and that's something that I preach like all the time, especially being a Black man in this industry. It's very important that you are showcasing those strengths, and not only that, but there's you definitely want to be sure that that you're standing out in one way or another. And I think that's all very important. I'm sorry, guys.
Cyrus, go ahead. You look like you want to say something real bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, first off, I agree with everyone is saying here. I was trying to think of an answer that everyone isn't already giving and something that I feel like I haven't kind of done a lot of overkill on. I would actually say one of the toughest things, I can speak from my experience and experience of others that I know, is probably just a mentality shift, at least for myself, because I had never done anything that was like even high level like tech, something that required, and of course, every job in tech is not the exact same, but for the most part of roles, it is like high level thinking. Not that you have to be a genius, but again, it's not a lot of hand holding. It's not a lot of, super micromanaging. So I would say the hardest thing for myself was, again, I agree with everything that everyone shared here, but I would also say, yeah, just having that mindset shift and seeing it differently. But also, if you're someone like myself, where just getting even entry level role in the industry would be such a financial jump for you, the other part of it, still on mindset shift, is shifting your mindset to believe, like truly believing it's possible, and not thinking like, no, there's no way this could possibly happen. And really just taking the limits off. I'm a very conservative. I used to be a very conservative person, actually, until I got in tech, where I was a person where I always kind of like didn't try to dream too big or think too big. I always try to keep things modest. But one of the things that helped me getting into the industry was I literally had to let my faith expand. And I say, you know what, God, I'm tired of playing around. I'm tired of treating you like, like, oh, I have this little small faith. No, I want to have big faith. And literally, when I took the limits off, it changed everything, and it changed my confidence. Even during interviews, I no longer felt this sense of, man, I don't deserve this salary. I don't deserve to be in this industry. And I had more of a confidence, like, oh no, like I know, like I definitely belong here, and it's only a matter of time before I get up in the thing.
I love that. Cyrus, I want to stick with you for a second, because a lot of people are transitioning into tech, specifically tech sales, account executive, like Malachi I'm speaking it in the account executive role, if that's something that you want to do, Kai. But I definitely want to transition a little bit into kind of like the tech sales kind of space, and understanding what you had to do in order to get where you are now, not necessarily having to go into too much detail. But the question is, did you join any organizations? And if you did any of those organizations that you joined help you kind of spearhead your career based on whether you like got a mentor or an advocate? Like how was any organization or mentor or advocate beneficial in your journey?
Yeah, that's super good. So I would say, and if I could also want to kind of transition from something else that I wanted to say from the first question that came up. So not only just the hardest thing about getting into tech, but one of the hardest things I think about like thriving in this industry is shifting from thinking, oh, this is just a job. Like most other industries, most other jobs, it's kind of like once you learn the job, you know the job, and that's it. But instead, seeing this as more of a career, very similar to being like a lawyer, where lawyers constantly are having to study their cases. They're constantly getting new cases. They're constantly having to stay up to date with new laws, new practices. It's a constant learning. Same thing with doctors. And ironically, that's why in this industry, most of us are paid on par with doctors and with lawyers. And so instead of seeing this industry as like, okay, I'm going to just get in, and once I'm in, I'm straight, I can kick my feet up. It's like, no, it's a constant to some level, some degree, some days more, some days less, but a constant studying, a constant growing. And that's one of the hardest things about being in the industry, but also is one of the most rewarding things. But to the second question, the most recent question, in terms of what I did to get in the industry, like I guess other process that I did, of course, most people know I did a tech boot camp. Aside from the boot camp, I attended tech events, things like that, but I myself didn't have a mentor. Now, I'm not saying no one needs a mentor. I think there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in whatever resource that you deem would work best for you. But I would say, and someone on here said something similar a moment ago, but I would say, think about how you best work. If you're the type of person where you work best when you have a mentor, then find a mentor quickly. I'm the type of person where I actually work best when I just put my head down. I kind of disappear for a while, and I take all the resources I've been given, and I do additional research with resources, and I take all of that, I pray about it, and I just grind it out like really hard. So that worked out for me. But again, other things that people can do, even outside of that, if you're the type of person where you're like, no, I appreciate mentors, definitely take advantage of mentors. Or if you're the type of person where, you know, you need a community, I would suggest going to either tech events or even just looking online for different communities, whether it's certain Facebook groups, or, you know, I know like Discord groups. There are a plethora of different tech community groups that you can find. And again, the value of that is that once you place yourself in a certain community, like I used to be a poet. When I was a poet, most of my friends were poets. And, you know, before I was a poet, I used to be a dance choreographer. Most of my friends were dancers. I'm currently reading a book called Atomic Habits, and the chapter I literally was listening to today is talking about how the number one most impactful thing with our transformation is actually our community, which is something we hear a lot, but it is extremely true if you look at like any data on that. So likewise, one of the most beneficial things to you getting in this industry is, whether it's temporarily or long-term, getting in a community of people that are already in the industry, and a community of people that are trying to get into the industry or working to get into the industry. So that way you can, once you already see yourself surrounded by like-minded people that are already in the industry and getting in the industry, and not you're just trying to get a job in tech, but the rest of your life, the rest of your community has nothing to do with tech, you will feel like a fish out of water. You will move like a fish out of water, and you won't truly be able to see yourself as if you belong. And again, that's something that'll reflect in your interviews. It'll reflect in the way that you're communicating with recruiters. So you really should do the best that you can to insulate yourself into an entry style community. So that way it'll start to transform your thinking, the way you're operating. So that way you'll just not even like break into tech, but you'll like just almost like naturally flow or step into the industry to where it makes sense.
I love that. Thank you. And y'all know y'all hear me talk about my mentor a lot. I actually did have a mentor. I did not join any organizations. I didn't even have a goal of getting into tech. It just kind of came to me. But I didn't do any organizations or anything like that. I barely did networking. Please don't follow that, by the way. Definitely network. But I actually had a mentor who spoke into me about what the importance of the candidate experience and why I'm such an advocate now. And she started to kind of show me the ins and outs of, as a recruiter, if you're not the advocate, then this is how candidates can be treated internally. And so once I started to understand some of the examples, it started to help me understand like, oh, I need to come up to this level so that people are treated fairly, and definitely make sure they get the respect that they deserve. Vince, I would love to hear from you. Did you have any organizations that you joined, any mentors, any advocates?
Yeah, I never had any organizations in particular that I joined, but I was heavy on the networking piece. So I absolutely second that a lot of networking, it was the make or break for me transitioning. So that's one of the biggest things that I would recommend for a lot of different people is exactly what Cyrus was saying, find your community. But also put yourself out there, finding those coffee chats. A lot of them, especially since COVID has happened, plenty of people will host a lot of these networking kind of get-togethers online. So all you got to do, you know, as long as you got a link and some good internet and a decent working camera, you're good to go. And that's how you get your name out there. And a lot of different people from completely different industries will start to get visibility of who you are, what you want to do, and where you want to go. And then from those, you have to be very diligent to foster those relationships, because they'll meet you in that one instance. But if you don't follow up, if there's no proactivity, you'll meet them again at the next, coffee meeting that next week and be like, introduce me to you again, because they won't remember you, because it's like you didn't take any action. So that's what I did. Once I got to know people, followed them immediately, got some more one-on-one chats with them, and just kept getting my name out there and visibility, so that way they were beneficial and they didn't feel like just another meeting or waste of time.
I love that. So Brian, real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and put your Instagram on the spot, because I don't know if y'all know, but Brian has like a suit business that's like really dope. And what I love about it is his like diversity of his skill set is everything. Like from running a business, a suit business, and going from pharma to tech. I would love to know how you were able to navigate that space and whether you were also a part of any organizations, mentorship, advocacy in any way.
Yeah, I'll start with the first question about the organization. So I helped found the Ohio chapter of National Sales Network. So NSN, or National Sales Network, is a minority pre-founded network organization that they prioritize getting minorities in the room. We thoroughly believe that if we get in the room, then we can have the conversation to land the job. But the biggest thing is we're not getting in the room. So I'll put the link in the chat as far as the NSN network. They're in all the major cities. I would definitely join. They just introduced tech into their ecosystem. So like our last national conference was in Atlanta. We had AWS was there, Amazon, Salesforce, LinkedIn, a lot of tech companies, and their Black recruiters are there looking for Black talent, looking for minority talent, and people are getting jobs on the spot. A lot of people don't know about NSN. And that was the first time where I was around people that 6 figures was the norm. So when you get in that environment, then it pushes you to be better, to do better. So I learned the language of how to interview, how to carry myself. And so when I did get into the room, I was prepared. But that was, to Cyrus' point, getting in that community and that, ecosystem with people that to make $100,000, $900,000 is the norm for that people group. So it's like, you have to move different. Kind of piggyback off running a suit business and being an entrepreneur. Your W-2 income is just a tool for cash flow via assets. So you don't get into tech just to make a lot of money and, spend all your money. You want to get that high salary to funnel that into assets that produce cash flow. So when I was in pharmaceutical sales, we had to wear suits every day. So I was like, I'm spending money on suits anyway. I looked into how do I start a suit business? So 2014 started my own suit business on the side. And it was just so that I looked better than everybody else in my industry. And that really set me apart from all the other pharma reps, because when I walked in doctors' offices, I looked the best. And they were like, who is this guy? And then some of my colleagues wanted to buy suits from me, et cetera. So that business just began to grow, just based off me wanting to have that spirit of excellence and being kind of set apart. And it started as a side hustle, but it's turned into a very lucrative business, also a tax shelter. I'm not a tax expert, but when you guys get into tech and start making these, 6-figure salaries, if you don't have tax shelters, LLCs, different avenues to be able to reduce your taxable income, you're going to be paying the government a lot of money. So once you do land in tech, how do you then funnel that money into assets? You have tax protection. So I just always been very diversified. Being a pharmaceutical sales, a lot of those people in the industry have a lot of real estate investments. I mean, you're talking to doctors all day. That's all they're talking about: business endeavors, business moves. So you get to learn how they move. And then, I decided to start that business alongside other businesses, and just kind of been, when you're in tech, you have that time freedom to kind of do multiple things. One of the benefits of tech, most jobs are remote. So you can get your work done while doing other things. So I'll say definitely once you do land that job in tech, you want to look at other ways to produce more cash flow. The end is to retire. Tech is just a vehicle to be able to kind of get your time back.
Yeah, I would love to. I love what you just said, especially with the whole work-life balance. Being a spoken word artist myself and encouraging people and being a motivational speaker as well. And then in addition to that, having, if I need to travel and I can, work from different places, it's really cool to be able to have that flexibility and be able to run the business that you already had. I love that. So I do want to shift it to Monte for a second. So the next question is, for anyone in the tech industry, do you know of anyone who focuses on recruiting an individual who does not have a technical background?
I know some non-technical recruiters in my network. Yes. I don't know if I can think of any necessarily by name off the top of my head, but I know quite a few recruiters, and not all of them are recruiting for just technical roles. So yes,
so how are you able to get into tech? I apologize if I cut you off. Yeah. How are you able to get into tech, not necessarily having a technical background, but still being able to scale in it at the same time?
Yeah, so for me, my avenue was I had a ed tech startup company. So like as an ed tech founder, that's kind of when I really started to break into tech. And then of course I leveraged my experience and background working in education to find a role at Microsoft that was actually an education. Actually, the role at that time was for an education expert. And so it really tied perfectly with my experience. And then, of course, having the background as an ed tech founder. So that was just, a perfect opportunity that I took advantage of and really haven't looked back since then.
Yeah, I feel you. So I'm saying, like, I was a recruiter through and through, not one, like maybe one or two tech positions, and then kind of was able to pivot into tech. You definitely don't have, for those of you who are watching, wherever you're watching from, you do not have to have a technical background to get into tech. There are plenty non-technical positions that you can go into that will allow you to pivot into tech and do what you love, and some of the positions that you've been doing in other industries. Vincent, I would love to hear a little bit about how you were able to get into tech from not having a technical background as well.
Yeah, I think some big things that helped me, because bridging off of what I said last time about networking, I met some really good people who were in recruiting. And a few good things that I learned. One was the language that I used on my resume, because I had the transferable skills to do a particular tech role, what I do now in tech sales. I can do it. I can grind. I can drive pipeline. I can talk to people. I love talking to people. But how do I communicate that to a recruiter when all they are seeing is you're doing funding, project management, and all of this? So changing my language and being able to speak the language of the tech recruiter or the tech industry and the tech role that I'm looking to get into, particularly tech sales. Another thing that I did that was very, very beneficial was learn the tech language. So it's one thing to put that on your resume, but how do I bridge the gap of what to say? And one relatively inexpensive tool that I used were the LinkedIn courses. So I don't, depending on, where your budget is, I ain't trying to count nobody's pockets. But if it makes sense, getting those courses and then saying, okay, I want to be in customer success. Customer success is not the same as customer service, especially in tech. But I thought it was. So I was like, yeah, I did McDonald's for a while, so I could do customer service. But then I started learning. And then I started getting a better understanding. No, this is completely different. Now, I still would love to do that role, but now I have a better understanding. So when I apply for that customer success role, I have a better understanding, and I'm putting the language of the customer success world on there. So those are things that I was able to do to really bridge that gap. And then just bringing your personality. Like if you know that you can execute a job, it's a lot like Brian said, you do need to be in the right areas, in the right rooms, around the right people. Once you get in there, if you know that you can execute. And it bridges off of what Cyrus says of like not psyching your own self out, of like thinking, nah, I can't do this.
Yes, that's that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, you in the room, so go and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are things that I did and kind of mindsets that helped me transition.
Yeah. You mentioned customer success, and that takes me actually to James. So James and you actually. So customer success is like becoming this big thing that everybody wants to do in tech. I think the most popular positions that I hear are tech sales, customer success, recruiting, and like AE. So SDR, BDR, AE type of roles.
Yeah.
So James, tell us a little bit about how you were able to, I guess, pivot into tech as a customer success, into customer success. And because of that position being a popular role, how were you able to stand out as a candidate, especially as a Black man?
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier, the fundamentals of customer success, which is where am I at point A? Where do I want to go, point B? And then can I chart a path for myself in the middle? So I use a variety of tools, like Vince was saying, looking at the job descriptions for the jobs that I was applying to, make sure my transferable skills were written in the right language that was showing the company that I had the value that they were looking for. Um, I looked around at people not just above me in terms of seniority or people that had been working in customer success for a little while, but also networked horizontally as well. So the job that I have now, I actually got largely in part due to a great friend of mine, Vanessa Walker. So we were both trying to get into the same kind of transitional program, and it kind of gave people an opportunity with non-technical backgrounds to sort of make that jump, learn about the company, and then start their career. And so as we met and discovered we both wanted to get into customer success, she had interviewed for the job that I had now, but because of the technical certifications that were required, they decided not to go with her. But her being gracious and us having that connection, she was, amazing and recommended me for the position. And based on her feedback, helped me coach up for the interview, and I was able to land it. And now I'm still trying to pay that back to her and make sure that she finds her feet in customer success sometime soon as well. So don't just swing high and looking for mentors or people who, maybe like know more than you or more experienced, but the people who are around you on your level, looking with you, like those are going to be the people that step up into those positions. So network in all directions. And then once you get there, now it's your responsibility to be those people who bring up the next generation. And so, that's how we continue the cycle and seeing more of our faces, in tech spaces.
Yes, I love that. So Ashton, me and you are the only two recruiters on this panel. From a recruiter perspective, because it is so the stereotype is recruiters don't respond to messages. We ghost people. And let's be real, that ain't all of us. Just let y'all know it's not all of us.
Right.
But from a recruiter's perspective, tell us a little bit about the do's and don'ts of reaching out to a recruiter and standing out to a recruiter so the recruiter can refer you to the hiring manager.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'll start with the first part as far as like reaching out and engaging, right? And I know you've talked about this a lot, and I've been on lives with you and things like that. But I think the biggest thing I want to hit on, and I actually just did a post about this recently, but is knowing and understanding that number one, recruiters have full-time jobs too, right?
Yep.
So like if you reach out to us on LinkedIn, that is a very although it's a professional platform, it is our personal platform. If you reach out to us on there, quite frankly, we're not even obligated at all to respond to you or engage with you. But because, we're the awesome people that we are, you have to be a certain special type of person to be in recruiting, because we have that natural attitude of, hey, I want to engage. Hey, I want to help. We're going to respond. And so I think the biggest thing I want to hit on is not only understanding and knowing like, hey, they do have full-time jobs, but not anticipating them or feeling or expecting them to feel obligated to do the work. Right. So if you understand and know, like LinkedIn, to all the candidates out there that are looking to engage with recruiters right now, LinkedIn gives you a lot of information without you even have to send a connection request or even, engage with the recruiter. And what is the information that I'm talking about? Right. So it gives you their name. You can see their background. You can see what company they work for. And oh, wait, 9 times out of 10, if they're on LinkedIn, their company also has a LinkedIn company page. And so you can also go to that LinkedIn company page and see what roles that company is currently recruiting for, right? So that's what the engagement piece looks like. And that's what doing the work looks like from a candidate perspective. And that process in which I just talked about could very well, especially if you're a candidate who knows what you're looking for, could very well take all of 2 to 3 minutes, right? So before you engage with the recruiter, doing a little bit of work. So then that way it doesn't look like you're just trying to connect with them just to connect or just to engage. Like sometimes, and I'm pretty sure, Shanae gets it as well. Like people will connect with me all the time and just be like, hey, saw you on here, would love to connect to you. All right, cool. That's awesome. Thanks. You're a part of my network now. Like engage with my content. And all I'll do is I'll hold down the message, wait for the emoji to pop up and hit the thumbs up button. Right. And then put the ball in their court to respond. Right. But what an engaged candidate looks like and what somebody who's really focused and looking for an opportunity, it looks like a message that says, hey, Ashton, would love to connect. Saw that you work for, XYZ company. I'm actually working for a B2B company right now, and this is my background. Can you tell me more about XYZ position? Or, hey, I actually went to the career site and applied for that position. Can we have a chat offline? Or, can you tell me more about that role? And then immediately I can go to their profile, see if their background aligns. Boom, if it does, go pull the app, send my Calendly link. And again, that process in its entirety shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, right? So that was the first part of your question, Shanae. I'm sorry. What was the second part? I'm blanking on that.
The second part was, I think I forgot the second part, but like you pretty much touched on what I wanted a recruiter to say anyway. And I wanted the recruiter's perspective outside of myself, because I say it all the time. I've also gotten like, people would be so mad at me when I would say something like, I understand like y'all want to give us your resume in a DM, but give us your LinkedIn profile, but ask us if you can attach your resume, because it comes off as obligatory. Like we have to look at it. And granted, do we use certain platforms to try to recruit our candidates? Yeah. Are we on a Saturday morning sometimes as a recruiter? Am I on a Saturday morning sometimes and I'm out and I'm probably like trying to get breakfast, and then I get into a conversation with somebody and they like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. I'm like, oh, I'm a recruiter. What you looking for? Like, do I happen to do that? Yes. But am I obligated to do that? No. And so I think people fail to realize that the research on their part helps us help them. And it's almost as if like you don't want a recruiter to have to literally take you by the hand and kind of and literally like pull you forward. The goal is, especially for people who want to get into tech specifically, we get questions, and I'm sure Ashton gets questions like this all the time, where people will go, all right, y'all, here's my resume, what you got? Or the goal or the message may be, I want to get into tech. And I go, okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Like, that's great. So what do you want to do? And then the response is, well, I don't want to do nothing. Well, I don't really know. And I can't say to you, figure it out. I can't say that because that sounds rude. Yeah. So I think the what we're saying as recruiters is to make sure you do your research as best as possible, so we can understand what you've done first. Like we're a little bit more inclined, honestly, to help you from the ground level if you at least tell us you did something. We will refer you, and I will send you to Kai and Ashton and Vince. I'll be like, hey, I just talked to this person. They did a little bit of research. They have a little bit of trouble. They're trying to get into tech sales or customer success. I'm gonna send you their information. Can I also give you their information? Like I would never refer without asking first. But I just feel like people have to have that level of research and preparation before they talk to a recruiter, so the recruiter can tell them good things, tell the hiring manager good things about them. I just wanted somebody else to say it, not me, because I say it all the time. And I just feel like we all feel the same way. But just kind of transitioning a little bit, Brian, you talked a little bit about building and investing in LLCs and all of that. So the next question is, I want to build generational wealth, as I don't want the next generation to have to live in a shelter when they grow up like I did. What investment options has the panelists included that have helped them meet their financial goals? So Tamonte, Cyrus, Brian.
I personally take advantage of we have a employee stock purchase plan at Microsoft, and so I actually I contribute to that every paycheck. I buy Microsoft stock and invest that way. it's good because we get a little discount as well. And then of course I can invest in other and other companies as well. But that's one of the ways. I'm not going to give any any crypto investing advice because I actually lost some there. But so that you got to kind of do at your own risk. But investing is a risk, just period. But definitely you should be thinking about investing, and you know I plan on keeping my Microsoft stock for a long time. So even after, well, I'm not going to say after I leave Microsoft, but God forbid if something happened, that's something that I would still hold on to it. So.
Yeah, I would say for myself, what I typically do with my tech money, I invest it all into my business, into my podcast, and into our events. And this kind of goes back to what we said earlier, and specifically what I was saying earlier, is that this also helps you as you're transitioning into this industry. Is don't wait until you're in this industry and wait until you start getting paid to then start thinking of what it is that you want to put your money in, because you don't want to find yourself, saying, oh, I'm going to wait until I get the money and then I'm going to invest into some things, because you could find yourself getting in this industry, getting the money, then saying, oh, well, I'll start investing in 3 months, or I'll start using this money and putting it into something later on. About 6 or 7 months before I even got into tech, way before I did a boot camp or anything else, I had not just plans about getting in the industry, I had plans of what I was going to put my money into once I got into the industry. And so it's almost like, again, they teach kind of like in martial arts that like you're not trying to punch an object, you're trying to punch through it, that your target is through it. And so have plans ahead of time of what you're going to do when you're in the industry, not just random like fantasies, but like real strategic plans of what you're going to put your money into, whether it is the real estate market. And of course, we know it's taking a crazy beating right now, as many other markets are taking a crazy beating right now. But my two biggest plans that I had way ahead of time was, hey, once I get that tech bag, and of course I didn't have a understanding of total comp. I didn't have an understanding of, basically depending on your company, you having the option to essentially be like a small part owner of your company, especially, if your company hasn't gone public yet, and just what that can look like and what that can do for you. But even before that, I said, hey, I'm going to get in the industry. I'm going to put my money initially was going to be in real estate. But then, of course, I ended up starting the podcast, and it took off a lot bigger and a lot faster than I thought it would. So the majority of my income right now goes into my podcast. It goes into Tech is the New Black, where we're trying to expand it. We are expanding it into more of a media platform now. Aside from that, I have money that leaves my account every month that gets diversified into different. Basically, goes into like the S&P 500, and it gets kind of diversified into different businesses.
Cool. I would say personally, if you're not in the industry, the best thing you do is invest in yourself and just education on personal finance, on business, books. Because once you get the income, a lot of people don't have an income problem. They have a bad habit problem. So it doesn't matter if you make more money. If your habits are not good, you're going to spend all that money. So, I would definitely invest in personal finance books, because when the bag does come, you want to know, how do I distribute this? Me personally, I'm investing. I have Airbnbs, invest in my company. So I have the suit company, Mark White Bespoke. I have Boss Dad. It's like a personal brand, just about personal finance. I teach a financial literacy course at my church. And that's really the biggest thing. Once you get the bag, having those, I guess, money systems, so that money just funnels into assets, that cash flow essentially. That's really the end game, guys, is how do we take this W-2 income, buy assets that can buy us our time back so we can do the things that we love to do. So that's what I would recommend. I mean, Airbnbs are a great entryway. I'm a part of an investment group, so we get Airbnbs together, but you can do it individually. So those are some things that I do personally with some of the income I get from tech.
And though, for those of you who do invest, when did you feel like you needed, if you have one, when did you feel like you needed a financial advisor?
I got one immediately. I think I could probably got an advisor like 2 years ago when I first got into tech because I wanted some accountability and I wanted somebody who knew how to manage and handle money. I think that accountability, because it's not easy for somebody to kind of direct where you spend your money and kind of have some pushback on, hey, I don't think it's wise to put 20 grand in Bitcoin, even though 2 years ago Bitcoin was jumping. They're like, I just haven't seen it. It hadn't really done the test of time. You can do it, but here's my advice: just to have someone to kind of put some other information in your, I guess, your decision making process really helps. But I wouldn't say a financial advisor is needed. I mean, anything they can tell you is on the internet. Honestly, Google, YouTube, books. They said, you want to keep secrets away from us, put it in a book. Literally anything that I've learned through financial advisor, anything I've done is all in books.
Yeah, I would say, so what I actually am just now getting a financial advisor. I literally had a meeting with one earlier today. And the meeting it was a bit of an interview for me to bring them on as my financial advisor, but also hire them to be the CFO for everything we're doing with Tech as a New Black. Just to, again, kind of like, make sure things are structured, make sure everybody on the team is being paid properly and making sure that we're using the right cards and stuff. But one of the things that I would suggest, if you're a person who you take your tech money and you invest it into a business of your own, one of the first things to get, if not a financial advisor, would be to be a business and tax lawyer. I'm going to get slapped around and jacked up this tax season. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna keep it a G with y'all. But a business and tax lawyer is incredibly valuable because depending on the type of business that you're in, they can help you with all different types of tax write-offs, random things, especially if you have like a social media brand, like myself. You'll be surprised the things that are tax write-offs when you are an influencer like this Rolex and other things that you're posting on social media. And again, a good business and tax lawyer can help you with those things. So I would say, again, depending on what you're investing into, I only know about what I know about. I'm not as super smart and savvy as Brian is when it comes to Airbnb and it comes to other investment routes. I'm definitely not a crypto genius like Malachi is. He probably didn't tell y'all that. He's a crypto genius. But what I do know about and what I've been learning about is my business and like a brand, like a social or online brand. So yeah, definitely a business and tax lawyer is invaluable.
Can I add? Sometimes lawyers are very expensive, even though I don't practice. But in lieu of a business or a tax lawyer, a good CPA, which is who I depend on largely, is also someone that you want to have in your wheelhouse.
Facts.
Yeah, definitely, for sure, Tamonte. And if I just add my little 2 cents here, I can get like really drill down and nerdy about this stuff. But to answer the question, I did get one right away as soon as I graduated college as well. And when I started investing, it wasn't even like, oh, I want to get rich. Mine is all long term. Like all of my investments are very long term. But one thing that I did make sure is that I went with an advisor from a very trusted company who had been in the business a long time. If there's everybody that's on the chat right now that's interested in investing, there's one important thing and one term I want you guys to remember is something called a fiduciary responsibility. And what that means is that the company that you're investing with has a responsibility to make sure that they do right by you. It's similar to like a bank being governed by like the FDIC. Like if they do anything, like they're going to get hit, they're going to get in trouble. So my financial advisor and somebody that I lean on just more so for like consulting and just like kind of bouncing ideas off him works for a company by the name of Edward Jones. But there are many companies out there. Make sure you do your research. Make sure it's a long-standing company who's not going to go out of business next year. And really, when you get into investing, have your short-term stuff. Have the money you want to have fun with, but have more of a long-term mindset. When you think about investing, think about a legacy mindset. I believe that saves people a lot of time and headache because getting that quick money and options trading and things like that, like that's out there and it's good. But make sure the bulk of your money is in something that you're going to be able to leave to your kids, and they're going to be able to leave to their kids' kids. Because the Bible said that's what a wise man does, is leave an inheritance for his children's children. So that's all I wanted to drop on you guys.
Yeah, God, come on.
Everything that everybody else said is really good. Please go back and look at these notes. Replay this if you have to, for sure.
I would love to circle back real quick and also say, I don't remember. It might have been Brian earlier or Ashton. One of y'all had mentioned about, but basically also investing your time into people that are, because once you get in the industry, you're making X amount of dollars, whether it's people that are in tech or if it's people that are outside of tech. It is important that, I'm not going to say like cut your old friends off, but it is important that you look into investing into new relationships with people that are, let's say six figures, that are, let's say you're at $100,000, people that are around that. And plus, because again, not only will they be resources to help you learn what to do with your money, or help you learn what to do when it comes to like whether you want to create a business or do something in real estate, but you would be incredibly surprised like how many resources you have when you have a group of friends that are now all making six figures plus. And so like it's really interesting. Like it's one of those things where, again, once you get in this industry, you're making a certain amount of money. The value of making connections of other people, again, whether in tech or in other industries that are making a certain amount of money, is that you will have a connection and a plug for things that you didn't even know existed. Things that people who aren't at a certain income level aren't privy to. And it's one of the things that I've learned, again, the beauty of being in this industry and making connections of people that are in this industry and like outside of this industry, is that you learn very quickly how rich people, or even, people that are, six figures plus, how they can lose it all and get it right back really quickly. And more times than not, it's because of their network that they've invested in those relationships. So again, I'm not saying cut your friends, cut your old people's off because you like, oh, I'm flexing, I'm balling now, I got all this money, y'all ain't on my level. But definitely invest in new relationships, because again, the journey doesn't stop when you get at six figures. It's really like it just got started, like straight up. It opens up doors to a new world. So yeah, and invest into certain avenues, but one of the greatest avenues to invest in is people that have had money longer than you've had money. Because this is still new money for me, and being around people that have had as much money as I have and more for significantly longer, the things they know, the relationships they have a plug for so many things, and it's just valuable. Like again, the most valuable resource, it is relationships.
I love that. Thank you. And let me just add to that, honestly. So to Cyrus's point, he's one of the people that I'm investing in because of his level of expertise in certain things that I am not privy to. Same thing with, like, y'all see in the chat, y'all see Christy Kennebrew. Christy and I have invested in one another in various different ways, from information to events and all kinds of things. So I'll definitely take Cyrus's word on that when it comes to investing in people who are doing better than you, because the goal is you want to sit at tables with people who are not just making more than you, but have more connections than you, have more. When I say power, I don't mean a level of importance, but in a way I kind of do. You know what I mean? But you definitely want to be in a space where you have people who are making and doing a lot better than you, so you can learn on how to get there. And then when you scale up, you continue to learn from people who are constantly doing better than you, so you can understand how to get there. I definitely agree. I want to shift a little bit to Kai. Kai been a little quiet, so Cyrus been messing with him, so I want to shift him a little bit. So Kai, you talk a lot about on your Instagram specifically, you talk a lot about kind of the great pros and cons of being in tech, and you talk a lot about just some of the things that if you want to get into tech, these are the things you have to think about. It's not just about the industry, it's about the passion behind the industry, or the passion behind the positions that you want to get into. So can you talk a little bit about what strengths do you think are most important in your position that are relevant to get into the tech industry?
Yeah, thanks, Sinead. So for one, I definitely want to say that yes, there are many pros and there are also many cons. And I cover that often because I feel like it's very important for people to see both sides. So just in terms of like key skills that I feel are very valuable to someone who is in a tech sales role, whether you're an SDR, AE, anything of that sort. One thing for sure is like communication skills and also presentation skills are like highly important. Because you definitely want to be able to pitch your company's product to other, business owners or businesses or C-suite people, so on and so forth. So communication skills along with presentation skills are extremely important. Another thing is relationship building, and that's like across the board. But relationship building is so vital too because it builds a level of trust and also a level of credibility when dealing with people in the space or prospective clients, so on and so forth. Another thing, resilience, because as a tech sales professional, you definitely deal with a lot of rejection, objections, stuff of that sort. You can't take it personal, but you have to, build a level of resilience to continue on, to continue follow-ups, to not to take those things personally. And another thing would be, I would say, problem solving skills, I guess, which is, that speaks for itself. But those are just a couple things to be mindful of.
Ashton, I would love to hear your perspective.
Yes, I'm over here following the chat. What was the question that you asked?
The question was, what strengths do you think are most important in your specific position in order for you to kind of maintain your position in tech?
For sure. Thank you so much, Nate. So in my time, I think one of the things for me as a recruiter, and I think what allows me to execute, like we were talking about earlier, and really own what I do, is I think about like recruiting a lot about like dating, and there are a lot of similarities. And I say all that to say, like, I think one thing that allows me to execute and do well in my position is just loving the chase, right? Like from sourcing to getting people on the phone to supporting them through the process. I take so much pride, almost to my detriment, to say that no matter how big or small my company, I got you to want to work for us. Yep. And a lot of times, like we miss that customer service aspect. And I think that's why retail management helped me so well in transitioning into recruiting in general, but specifically technology recruiting, because depending on these positions and the level of these positions, I know that people I'm talking to have a smorgasbord of different opportunities that they can choose from, right? But what can I do to impact the conversations that we're having in such a way that you say, look, I don't care who else is talking about what, based on the way that Ashton interacted with me, based on the way my interview process went, like I want to be sure to work with them. So I don't necessarily know if that's like the professional term or what professional term to put to that, but just being so dedicated, being so willing to put in the time to go above and beyond to make sure that that candidate knows, hey, I don't know what these other companies are talking about, how they're willing to support me, but based on my interactions with Ashton, like I know he's going to support me. I know he's going to get me through the process, and I know I can count on him to be truthful with me. Because I tell you what, man, these hiring managers, lack of better terms, be on some stuff. And I'm so glad that I have the ability to conduct all of my interviews, my phone screens from my cell phone, because I don't care who I'm working for. Y'all ain't paying my cell phone bill, so I can be as honest as I want with my candidates. And it's through that honesty and transparency that I really gain that buy-in from my candidates. So I would say that is one of the the key thing. And then secondly, kind of like the caveat to that, right, is being in a position to where you have to be passionate about that piece as a technology recruiter, but also having the ability to not get too invested in a candidate, because I've definitely caught myself up and wearing my heart on my sleeve. And when they don't choose the candidate that I wanted to for whatever reason or another, then it has the tendency to affect me, right? So being passionate about what you do, being willing to go all in, but at the same time, specifically from a recruiting perspective, knowing that, hey, it may not always, go your way, and being almost too invested can come back to bite you. So that's kind of the pros and cons to that one.
I think one of the, if I may, I think one of the best things about the strength of having a recruiter position, regardless of the industry that you're in, is honestly like, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible. And I hate that I have to preface my statement with that, but this is Black History Month and we're all Black here. So it is something powerful behind being a Black woman and being able to be the advocate. Unless you understand how powerful it is to sit in front of a group of Cyrus, unless you understand the amount of no's that I had gotten before I had gotten my recruiting break, to be able to be now on this side, to be able to give people an opportunity or have a hand in some way to actually keep hiring managers on the pathway of, don't pick a candidate based off of their personality, pick them based off of their skill set. And I get a chance to actually hold hiring managers accountable based on that. Like it is absolutely a strength to be able to say, no, this is how you're going to do it because I'm HR. And so and I say that way because if we're having a real conversation, it can be difficult, no matter the industry that you're in. It can be difficult as a Black person to be seen, regardless of what position you're in, what industry you're going after. And so I love the fact that all of us here, I am not a man, but all of us here are not only African American, but for all of you to be able to be men, and we can see the success that you all have had, but not understand your story until you say it. It's for you all to speak to other Black people, white people, Hispanic people, Indian people, regardless, for you to be able to speak to everyone as a minority and to understand, get them to understand what you all have had to overcome and where you all have come from. Cyrus said it before, he was a Lyft driver, so was I. So being a Lyft driver and then going into tech, two big different like, I'm telling y'all, I was literally like, how the heck am I a Lyft driver and I got a law degree? Like, I had to like humble myself. I had to like, I was driving Uber Eats. I was literally
Uber
like,
Eats with a master's degree. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, and it's not that having and driving for those companies is bad in any way. But when it's a requirement to pay a bill and you went to school to do other things, like, that was a very humbling experience. And so to be able to be on this side and to speak from a level of success, and this is the strength that we have to constantly operate and work in to continue to build others up, is, I think it's nothing short of amazing. We'll do the last question. So Tamonte, Vincent, whoever else wants to answer, how are you able, in your current role, how are you able to answer, how are you able to kind of work your work-life balance into your life and work? How are you able to balance the two?
I have a great work-life balance, fortunately, in the situation that I'm in, and then it definitely helps, like being able to work remote. Makes it more flexible and convenient to be able to balance other things in life and other work that I have to do. That's actually one of the main kind of perks of working in tech as opposed to working in the legal field, is the work-life balance. To me tends to be much better. I did work, for a few firms, law firms prior to really getting into tech. So I had that experience, and so yeah, just I like dealing with less stress. People ask all the time, how come you're not a lawyer? How come you don't practice? I'm like, I don't want to deal with the stress that come, and no knock against the law, but it's definitely can be a very stressful profession, as I'm sure you know, Shanae. And
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely, that's, just having that good work-life balance allows me to be able to, focus on other stuff.
I love that.
Oh my God. In order for me to balance it out, you got so many things you got to implement. But so one thing I do is scheduling. Scheduling is a really good thing, and like exactly what Tamonte said, having a remote job makes it 10 times easier to have a lot of convenience, because my commute is like 15 steps rather than a drive. So for that, it's already going to bring a balance. But executing that, making sure that your actual, like, have an office or just an area that's sectioned off for your work. So when you disembark to go do something else, it doesn't feel like I have to enjoy life and work in the same area. It really does mess with your mind. It's a small thing, but I think it's an impactful thing. Another thing kind of going off of it was scheduling, really setting good boundaries of like, here's when I am going to stop, and I'm going to give myself the grace to be okay with it. Because I think a lot of work culture still is changing, where it's trying to say the person who gets to go and gets the promotion or gets the pay raise or the best review or whatever is the one that is the first one to clock in and the last one to clock out. And just don't burn out, but work yourself to the bone. And it's like, you can't trust the company, not to say anything bad about companies, but you can't trust the company to give you your boundaries. So you have to give yourself your own boundaries to say, you know what, I'm okay. Because kind of like what Ashton said, if I'm working with the spirit of excellence, I can work at 8, clock out at 5, and absolutely crush it. And if you're comfortable with staying after a little bit, that's your business. But set good boundaries for yourself mentally, and then really just learn how to disembark from your work mentally. So when you're away, be away and let that be okay. And I think if you can set good boundaries, do some good scheduling, and appreciate the conveniences that you do have, I think you'll be able to balance your work life as best as you can.
I'd also like to add, do your work early. So in the interview process, talk to the recruiter, talk to the hiring manager, ask, maybe there's somebody in between who you actually be working beside, ask them about their attitudes on you taking PTO, whether that's unlimited or if they have a set amount that allocates throughout the year. Talk about different scenarios in which you might be away, and get their feedback on it. Because, if you talk to somebody and they say, well, yeah, you might only have enough time to take away like every couple, like a half afternoon off or something, like you already know that it's not going to be copacetic with them if you try to take like a long vacation. So let the companies kind of show you their attitudes on work-life balance, and then you can make an assessment for yourself before you even sign the agreement or sign the offer letter.
I want to go ahead and jump in because I gotta jump off soon in preparation for something else. So I concur with everything everyone said here. I would say, aside, so again, speaking on like, okay, let's say you're doing something outside of your job. Like I'm always doing 1,000 different things. That's just me. That's my life. I've accepted it at this point. To keep, also to help with like getting things done and keeping like your sanity. Again, don't just work in tech, leverage technology as well.
Yeah.
So if you're someone where, again, whether you have a business, whether you have some type of service, or even if you're like, hey, I'm trying to like build up a brand on social media, leverage AI. Like AI, we all see the AI boom is happening right now. And there's clearly a lot of overlap with AI and tech. Like it's software. At the end of the day, it's all software. It's a form of technology. Leverage AI. I have been purchasing AI subscriptions like a madman. Half of them I'm probably not even going to use, and I'm just testing them all out. leverage AI for whatever it is, that you might want to do. If anyone's curious about some suggestions of different AI, I know everyone's talking about ChatGPT. That's like one of like 50, 60, 70 different AIs that do different things, that do them better than ChatGPT does everything at the same time. So definitely leverage AI, and also consider, again, you can get tech bag, all of that. Also consider using, if you're not at a place where you're able to afford like an employee or a team member and paying them like, American prices or American salary, get virtual assistants. Kai knows I've been leveraging different virtual assistants. At this point, I have like 3 different virtual assistants, but even my first one, only like $5 an hour, which, like over in their country, that's like, she's getting paid better than a lot of other people are getting paid over in her country. And I just hired 2 other ones. Like, you would be surprised the level of skill set and work and tasks. And you can choose like when you hire them, that you can see what their specialties are. You'll be a recruiter, or you'll be hiring people on that have specialties. So literally you could actually be at your job and they can be doing tasks for you. You could go live on Instagram and talking about whatever it is that you're passionate about. And then the next morning or the next day, while you're working your job and you're at work, a VA could literally take your Instagram live and can cut it up into different videos and be doing that while you're working your job and post it on all different social media platforms. And again, if that takes them 4 hours to do all of that at $5 an hour, that's $20. But now you've had all your content posted everywhere. You don't even have anything to do for that day after you get off work. You can spend time with your friends, your family, all that good stuff. So definitely leverage AI. AI is even cheaper or more affordable than VAs. But also, if you want like real hands-on, if you want like an actual person doing something, leverage VAs once you start getting this tech bag.
I love that. So I'm going to conclude here because I want to respect everybody's time. So thank you all so much for coming. I put everybody's LinkedIn links in the chat, and I will stay on just a few more minutes so that I can make sure I put Tech is the New Black on the link from the YouTube in the chat, as well as my YouTube link, and then some other links that if Brian wants to continue to put his link, I've seen it a few times. So if Brian, you more than welcome to put your links, and everybody else, if y'all want to put your links in the chat, if you want to do that, please do. But y'all, these were like extremely great gems. So thank you all so much as my panelists for coming and volunteering your time to give back to the community. So we're going to have a part 2 for this. So today was the Pivotal Panel, the Black Men Edition, on February 28th at I think I put it at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're also going to have part 2 of this, and it's going to be the Black Women Edition. And so you'll be able to hear how the women was able to pivot from one industry to the next. A couple of my panelists were in the chat, specifically Naja Dunn. So I'm going to go ahead and put her link in the chat before you all leave, so you all can connect with Naja. She is amazing. Cyrus has also had her on his Q&A as well, so definitely connect with her. She's going to give a little bit more gems about how she was able to pivot, along with some other panelists that will be there as well. So thank you all so much for coming. Y'all are my brothers. I appreciate all of you, and continue to give back as we all get this bag together. You all have a great one.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it.
Have a good one.
Thank you guys so much.
Is it still live or now?
I just ended it.